on the business news now. That Competition Commission's report. Here's Mariam.
Thank you, Simon and Kara. Yes, well, the Competition Commission is set to focus on local issues in the next phase of its probe into the UK grocery market. The Commission has been examining the supply chain, planning and land banks of the big four UK supermarkets. But it says it hasn't found as much evidence of suppliers being mistreated as it expected, although it still does have some concerns. However, it said it is worried about a decline in the number of dairy and pig farmers. Let's talk now to James Edsberg. He's a retail analyst at the Lighthouse Consultancy. Thanks for joining us. Do you think the supermarket's going to be happy with what the Competition Commission has said today?
I think it could have been a lot worse for the supermarkets. I think the first thing to say is that this is going to be quite a long inquiry. The Competition Commission, with the announcement that it's made today, is almost just clearing its throat before it gives its final view, and it'll be reporting in the summer and then later on in the year possibly. But the supermarkets can be happy because on the two areas where they thought they were vulnerable, the first is on whether they have abused their buying power with suppliers, and the second is on whether the sites that they've built up, the so-called land banks, put them at a particular advantage. On both those issues, the Commission has so far not come down particularly hard on them and seems to be reserving its judgment. In fact, it even said explicitly that its report would not be about punishing the major supermarkets. So I think they can be pretty happy so far.
In fact, the kind of issues have switched, haven't they? We were talking about landfills and suppliers. Now we're talking about problems with local farmers and with milk suppliers.
That's right. One of the interesting things that came out of the report was how local it was going to be. This isn't just about supermarkets being dominant all over the UK. They're going to very much look at competition and its impact on price, on quality and on choice locally. And I think that will be one aspect that came out that's very interesting. And as you said, looking not at suppliers, which everybody thought they would, but actually at the producers, so farmers, as you mentioned.
Now, talking about the local aspect of the Commission probe, we're talking obviously looking at convenience stores and smaller supermarkets. Do you think they're going to be happy with what the Competition Commission said?
I think it's early days. I think that they will. I mean, the Competition Commission has said very much that it wants to look at it on the basis of the facts, and the supermarkets are clearly very, very dominant. And I think the independent retail sector is probably looking for a bit more support. But there has to be the evidence for it. And frankly, if you're a consumer, taking a step back and looking at this sector, you see stable or low prices, a lot of choice. No consumers are really complaining about the choice they have. And that's quite a tough one to answer for the independent retail sector.
And finally, James, we've had obviously this probe, the full report coming out. Do you think this is going to be something that's actually going to change things, or are we going to see just one probe after another after another?
It's a great question, because I think that's the accusation that there's been about some of the earlier reports. I think it will very much depend on whether the Commission finds evidence of local dominance by one or a couple of big supermarket chains and whether they're prepared to act. And secondly, whether they enter into the debate around planning laws and try to oblige some of the larger supermarkets to get rid of the sites which they've reserved on which they would want to build more supermarkets.
Okay, James Edsberg, thank you very much indeed, and that's all the business from me.